This video is going to teach you how to build your houses and guild halls, what furniture and trophies you will need for each tier of house or guild hall, and for what type of laborers, so that there is no confusion, so that you can maximize a laborer's happiness, so that you have the highest possible return rate from journals. Before we continue the video, I need to give you some warnings about laborers, housing, and guild halls. Laborers are an end-game rich player mechanic that will simply make you more money over time. However, you will not see a return on your investments for about 8 months on average. It is different depending on what laborers you do, but on average, it's going to take you 8 months of being down in the hole before you get your money back, and then you start making extra money from these things. It used to be less, but because SBI raised the cost of islands, guild islands, and housing, that's just how it is. Laborers and housing should only be invested when you have plenty of fallback sets of gear. What is a fallback set of gear? Well, let's see. I can go farm solo dungeons or group dungeons with my sets of gear here. I can gather tier 8 resources or gather tier 4 and 5 resources very quickly with my tier 8 gathering sets. These are my fallback sets. If I ever go completely broke, which my character is showing at 1 silver right now, I'm not broke, but that's what it's showing. I can just equip these sets and go make money. No problem. I can go farm dungeons. I can go blow up dungeons. I can go, whatever, right? If you do Black Zone content, then you want to at least have 10 sets or more of gear in your storages before you even consider this, possibly. So, you want to have maximum specs. You don't need 120, just 100 is fine. And you need lots and lots and lots of silver just sitting around collecting dust before you even consider this, alright? Also, due to the insane cost of islands and guilds these days, new players should completely avoid this activity. In my latest guides, I've not been telling people to do, the guild, island, and laborer thing. Back in the day, it was way cheaper. You could do it on your literal first day of playing. Now, it's way too expensive to even consider, and you won't see returns for such a long time. New players have more important things to spend their silver on than this. This is for veteran players, this is for players who have lots of money sitting around, this is for card swipers, this is for anyone who is a little bit more wealthy in the game. Let's get to it. First, let's go over some basic labor mechanics. I know this is a text-heavy video, but hey, you need to learn, right? Laborers need beds, tables, and trophies to be happy. More on this later. Happy laborers will give you a higher percentage return on journals. The max return is of 150%, and you need to be a tier higher than the journal with all the right furniture to achieve this. At the same tier, it's only 130% returns. This is only for gathering laborers. This is not for the crafting laborers. We're going to talk more about what these are later in the video, but for now, this is just the bare bones basics. So real quick, let me just go over what return rates are, what they mean, and what they look like. So this is a tier 6 laborer. The tier of the laborer doesn't matter as long as it's equal to or higher than the journal. This is also a tier 6 house, and the tier of the house allows you to have that tier of laborer do its job. For instance, if I tried to give this laborer a tier 7 book, he couldn't do it because the house is only tier 6. Even though the laborer might be, if it was tier 7. You can put a tier 8 laborer in a tier 2 house, it does not matter. They just can't do that job up to that house tier. Also, you can't put a higher tier furniture in a house that is not that same tier. So this is a tier 6 house, the furniture is only tier 5. So this is effectively a tier 5 laborer. Now, I have a tier 5 journal here. And this is going to give me 130% yield, which is 0 to 42 out of these. Now, obviously, I'm not going to get 42 heavy hides because this is like a fractional of a percent chance to receive. Most likely, I will receive these heavy hides. Up to 42 of them, not guaranteed 42 of them. And this is with this yield percentage calculated. So, up to tier 3, you always get the same amounts. So, this tier 2 journal, 150%, is 57. It is not 57 plus 150%, it is only 57. So what is 57 minus, 50%? Well, it'd be like 20-something, but that's not exactly how that works. Whatever. It's a little hard to do the math, but essentially you want your yield percentage to be 150 if you can afford it. And here I'll show you, if I go to some tier 8 laborers and a tier 8 guild hall with tier 8, stuff, this tier 5 book will give me a yield of 150%, or 48 instead of 42. That's all it is. That's all yield percentages are. I'm going to try to make it a little more simple for you guys. So the house tier is what allows the tier of furniture to be allowed. I know that sentence sounds a little stupid, so let me explain. This is a tier 6 house. I can have tier 6 furniture in it. If I try to put a tier 7 bed in a tier 6 house, the game will not let me. However, I can put any tier of laborer in any tier of house, but they will only benefit from that furniture. So, a tier 5 house can only have tier 5 or below furniture, right? The tier of laborer does not matter for housing. A tier 4 laborer cannot be granted additional happiness from tier 5 and above furniture. Also, a tier 4 laborer cannot use a tier 5 or above journal. So, as you can see here, I have these. This is a tier 6 laborer. I have a tier 7 journal. He simply cannot accept it because he is not tier 7. Whereas if I go to this tier 8 guild hall, because, well, you know, this is a tier 8 guild hall, these are tier 8 gamekeepers, they can obviously take the journal and give me 150% returns. So here is the name of all the gathering laborers in the game, and each of these gathering laborers has a specific trophy that only they benefit from. More on this in a little bit, but we have fishermen's for fishing, prospectors for metal mining, gamekeepers for skinning, croppers for fiber harvesting, stone cutters for stone mining, and lumberjacks for wood cutting. Next up, we have the crafting laborers, and these do not have special trophies, meaning you will get less return rates because of this. I don't know if the devs just never bothered to add it, or it's for balance reasons. I have no clue. There are a few artificial ways to raise their happiness, though. I'm going to go into that later in the video, but we have the tinkerers, which is for tools, fletchers for the hunters, mage for imbuers, blacksmiths for warriors. Now, cooking, potions, and refining do not have laborers. You can level up generalist journals with those. Generalist journals only return trophies and level up your laborers. This is not a journals guide, though, so we're not going to talk about that. But, and I've made videos on my channel. You can search journals or laborers in my search, and you can find my videos. But, essentially, for those that don't know what crafting means, let me just show you on the map here. This is Bridgewatch, and these are player-owned shops. So, this one right here, this Elder's Toolmaker, this is a like anything you craft here, except for the tracking kits for some reason, will fill up your journals for Tinker's journals. And then you can turn them into a Tinker Laborer and get some actually refined materials back. For Fletcher, you have the Hunter's Lodge, everything here crafted. The bows, the leather armor, all that kind of stuff will give you, fame towards fletching journals. Imbuer is the magical book here, the Mage Tower, everything you craft at the Mage Tower. And Blacksmith is the warrior. That's the sword icon here. So the warrior's forge, that's like plate armor, swords, axes, that kind of I believe it's axes. That kind of stuff is what you craft here. And that's how you fill those journals. There is one more laborer I forgot, which is the mercenary. And to fill mercenary journals, you simply kill enemies and earn fame. And they give you silver. They do not give you raw or refined materials. And they do have their own little trophies as well, so they're kind of like a gatherer in a way. Here's what the rest of the video is going to cover, though. We're going to be covering Tier 4, Tier 5, and Tier 8 houses and guild halls. The reason why we're not covering Tiers 2 and 3 housing and guild halls is because Tier 4 is insanely cheap. By the time you should be able to do guild halls and housing, Tier 4 is basically free up from Tier 3. It's so cheap due to Tier 4 stone being basically worthless that it's where you should start. But Tier 5 is when housing gains an additional laborer, and also guild halls gain, I believe, 5 additional laborers. I might be wrong on that. But essentially, guild halls, you should always start at Tier 5. If you're brand new and you somehow have a little bit of silver, Tier 4 is fine. But Tier 5 is a little bit more expensive, but it's always worth it for guild halls. And then finally, Tier 8 it gets a little weird at Tier 8, because Tier 8 has a furniture limit of 70 currently in the game. Like if I open this little menu here and I look at my furniture limit, it's limited to 70, which means you have to do some finagling to get as much happiness as possible. And it's a little bit wonky, and I'm going to talk about it. It's also kind of optional. For instance, these Tier 8 laborers, they have 890 out of 900 happiness. Now, what is this a percentage difference of? This is 148.3 repeating in return rate. So I'm losing 1.666 repeating on resources when I use these guys. There's a way to push them to 150% though, and that's what I'm going to talk about later. So we're going to start with tier 4, a tier 4 house. I have tons of personal islands filled with tier 4 houses. Yeah, some of these are tier 5. I was doing a little experimenting. But housing is not the most time-efficient method for laborers, and upgrading each individual house, especially on hundreds of islands, is kind of time-consuming. But I'm just going to teach you the tier 4 version of the house. I recommend tier 5 for guild halls. More on that later. So let's get started with tier 4 houses. So for a tier 4 house, you will need 2 beds, this is the maximum, 1 table, and then you will need 1 generalist trophy of tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. And then for gathering laborers, you'll need additional trophies of tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 for that specific laborer. So let me show you an example now of a mercenary house. These are mercenary laborers. And here, I have 2 beds. You can see it right here. And let me get rid of the mount so you can see it better. There's 2 beds. Each bed will give each laborer 200 happiness. So, 1 bed per laborer. Then you have the generalist trophies here. This is a tier 2. This is called the Adventurer's Handbook. This tier 3 is the Magical Tome. And tier 4 is the Ancient Scripture. So, each one of these will give happiness up to 3 laborers, but tier 4 houses can only have 2 laborers. So you just need 1 of each. And then because these are mercenaries, I have their specific trophy, which is this tier 4 mercenary trophy, this tier 3 mercenary trophy, and this tier 2 mercenary trophy. And each of these works up to 3 laborers. So there you go. That basically maxes out their happiness. You do not need to add... you cannot add trophy sharks to a tier 4 house because you need a tier 8 house to have them, and it is not worth buying a spyglass for a tier 4 house. You should never use spyglasses. So what's a spyglass? I'll show you what a spyglass is. A spyglass is an item that only people got back in the day whenever they paid real money for the game when the game first came out. These are a finite, limited item that can never be crafted or found or looted ever again. And so, they might not exist in the future. But these little things are basically, they're just a trophy that works up, it's 5 happiness for up to 3 laborers. These things are anywhere from 8 to like 14 million silver each. And you can have a maximum of 5 of them in a guild hall. More on that later. This thing is for the super duper uber rich players. Don't worry about spyglasses. My point though is that you should not put those in a tier 4 house. I mean, yes, if you truly wanted to min-max, I guess you could, but there's no reason to. It's not worth the cost. You'll never make that money back. Now let's talk about tier 5 houses. It's basically the same thing. Houses are super simple, okay? When you hit tier 5 housing, you can now have 3 laborers, which changes things. So instead of 2 beds, you will now have 3 beds, which is nice. You only need 1 table because 1 table will give happiness for up to 6 laborers, but you can only have 3 in a house. And then for your generalist trophy journals, you will simply add a tier 5 generalist, which is this tome of knowledge. And then for gatherers, you just add a tier 5 trophy journal of whatever this is. So these are gamekeeper laborers. So I have this tier 5 stuffed bearhead, the tier 4 stuffed boarhead, etc. So that's all it is. You just need 1 of each trophy because 1 trophy helps up to 3 laborers. And, the generalist helps any laborer, and the specific trophy helps the specific laborer. Remember, the crafting, refining ones, the crafting ones do not have, like, special trophies. They can only benefit from the generalist trophies. So what that means is that if this was a house for tinkerers, you would simply ignore this bottom part of the text. There you go. That's all you need. For guild halls, and what is a guild hall? When you have a guild island, you can build a guild hall, which is just a really big building, it's more efficient for laborers, it's more efficient for furniture, so it's cheaper than housing. So you should always it used to be. I mean, okay, it depends if you had a guild before all the cost changes or not, but still, it's just more time efficient to have guild halls than houses, because it means less visits and less furniture. So, for a tier 5 guild hall, you will need 50, and this is an ugly guild hall, don't judge me, I don't care, I'm a messy guy on the internet, but in real life, I'm very tidy. So 15 beds. 1 bed for each laborer. You can have up to 15 laborers in a guild hall. Look at them all. They're all lining up against the wall here. You know, ready to do their bidding, or my bidding, whatever. You need 3 tables, okay? The tables work for 6 laborers each. So 6, 12, and then, well, 15. So, there you go. Then you need 5 generalist trophies of... I'm sorry, I almost said journals. 5 generalist trophies of tier 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here they are. So you can see these little books. These are tomes of knowledge. I have 5 of them lined up. It doesn't matter where you put them as long as they're inside. You know, just 5 of each tier. And then on the wall here, I have 5 of each tier of trophy. These are gamekeepers, so they have gamekeeper trophies. Again, here's the stuffed bear heads. Tier 5, tier 4, tier 3, and tier 2. 5 of them each. And that will give you the maximum possible happiness that these guys can have without using spyglasses. Again, you should never use spyglasses for such low-tier nonsense. It's just not worth a 1% boost for costing 40 million silver. Also, I just want to go off subject for a second here because I get whispers all the time from players asking for help and advice. I am permanently muted in this game because I speak out against the game masters, and they don't like that. So I cannot reply to you. I'm not being mean. I simply cannot whisper you back. I am sorry. If you look at my stats page, it says that I'm perma-muted, so I literally cannot reply to that guy. Now, for Tier 8 guild halls, I'm going to give you 3 different setups. I'm going to give you the 148.333% return rate, which has 15 laborers. I'm going to give you the 15 laborer version for crafting laborers. And then I'm going to give you a 12 laborer version with 150% returns for gathering laborers. Let's start with the first one. This one is for gatherers, 15 of them in one guild hall at 148.333% returns. So you need 15 beds, you need 3 tables, both tier 8. You will need 2 trophy sharks, which are these things here. To make a trophy shark, you have to capture a shark, through fishing, or just buy one. They're like 170,000 silver each. You only need 2 of them, by the way. And then that puts you at 20 out of 70 furniture. Then you need 5 of each of the following specific trophies for the laborer, tiers 2 through 8, 5 of them each. And what I mean by that is for instance, these are gamekeeper laborers on my screen right now. So they need gamekeeper trophies. These are tier 2 stuffed fox heads, tier 3 wolf heads, all the way up to tier 8 dire bear heads. 5 of each of these. This puts you at 55 out of 70 furniture limit. Then, finally, to wrap it all up, you need 5 of each generalist trophies. That means 5 tier 6, 5 tier 7, and 5 tier 8. Now, in this specific case on my screen, instead of using the generalist trophies, I do have 5 spyglasses. It's not necessary. It's the exact same amount of happiness. You can see here that this Ledgers of Truth gives 5 happiness for up to 3 laborers. This spyglass gives up to 5 happiness for 3 laborers. It's the same exact amount of happiness, and that's why it's not set up on my screen that way. And the only thing the spyglass is good for is boosting the happiness of your crafting laborers, but I don't feel like removing them because it does the same purpose as the Journalist Trophy Journal. But that is 70 out of 70 at 148.333 return rate, which some people are okay with. What this essentially means is that for every 90 journals you turn in, you're losing 1 journal. That's all it means. For every 90, you're losing 1. But in this case, a tier 8 gamekeeper, laborer, losing 1 means you're losing 500,000 silver. So for some people, that's a lot, I guess. So here is how to get 150% returns on gathering laborers in a tier 8 guild hall. So you only need 12 beds instead of 15. You only need 2 tables instead of 3. You still need the 2 trophy sharks. Then you only need 4 of each of the following trophies specific for the laborer. So again, because these are gamekeepers, I'm using trophy animal heads. Here's the fox heads, the wolf heads, the dire wolf heads, etc. You only need 4 though, you don't need 5, putting you at 44 out of 70, tiers through tier 8. And then you only need 4 of each of the generalist trophies. Now, do note that the visual on the screen here is not what is representative on this list. I didn't feel like switching to the test realm. So you only need 4 tier 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, putting it at 68 out of 70 furniture. You don't need tier 2 generalist trophies because their happiness will already be maxed out, but you can put down 2 of them if you want to just feel safe, but you don't really need to. At 68 out of 70 furniture, they will be maxed out in happiness. Now, for tier 8 guild halls, for crafting laborers, I don't know the percent return rate, it is not 150, but here's how you get as close as possible. You need 15 beds, 3 tables, 2 trophy sharks. Then you need 5 of each of the generalist trophies. Remember, generalist trophies are these little books here. I'll list the trophies at the end in case anyone is really confused about it. Tiers 2 through tier 8, putting at 55 out of 70. The only way to increase happiness after this, and this is insanely expensive, is to get Explorer's Spyglass. And these things, like I said, they're anywhere from 8 to like 15 million silver each. And they barely increase the happiness whatsoever, but that puts you at 60 out of 70 furniture usage. And this is simply because the crafting laborers do not have their own trophies that you can place down, and this gives you the maximum possible return on tier 8. Of course, for tier 7, you'll get 150% even without the spyglasses. This is why a lot of people use tier 7 journals instead of tier 8. It's pretty simple. So let me teach you how to acquire the furniture, the beds and the tables. So you go to the market, you go to category, you go to furniture, and then here you have bed, and then down here you have table. So if I want tier 4 beds, I click bed, I go to tier 4, and then I can buy them. They're like 1,000 each right now, pretty cheap, right? What about tier 8 beds? How much are those? Oh, there's really no tier 8 beds on the market? Really? Huh. How come? Surely there is. Surely there is. Furniture, bed, tier 8. Come on now. There they. I don't know. My UI glitched out. So these are about 600,000 each. Now there is a cheaper way to get beds than just buying them, because again, all items are crafted by players. This is a channel members only secret, which I will not unveil in this video. If you want to learn more about how to get beds for cheap, you'll have to become a channel member. It is $5. Right down here where my cursor is bouncing, there is a join button. You can also expand the description of this video, and there is a join link. It's $5 a month. It gets you access to private, more personal videos that are too good for the public, that will teach you how to flip the market, make more silver, and do advanced techniques that, again, if everyone knew how to do this, it would crash the markets. So they are for members only. And I will not say anything more than that for beds and tables. It also works for tables. Tables are pretty expensive too. 1.3, 1.4 million silver per table. Yikes. And you need a bunch of them, okay? So that's it for furniture. So here's how to find the specific laborer trophies that we talked about earlier. So you open the market, you go to category, go down to trophies. And let's say I have a bunch of fiber harvesters, in a guild hall. I go to fiber trophy, go to tier 2. So we have the Comfy Cotton Trophy, and then if you go to Tier 8, the Exquisite Ghost Hemp Trophy. And these things are like almost 3 million right now. The only other way to get these trophies is to essentially do a, let's see, Cropper's Trophy Journal. You have to fill a Trophy Journal, which takes an insane amount of fame to fill, and then when you give it to the laborer a day later, they'll give you a trophy. That's the only way to do it, and there's no way that there's a full one on the market. Yeah, there's absolutely not, because they would just sell the trophy instead. At low tiers, trophies are pretty much worthless. At high tiers, they're really hard to find, so those tier 8 guild halls are expensive to furnish. Here is how to find generalist trophies, and lucky for you, these are the cheapest items in the entire game. So here's the names on the screen. You can pause the video if you want. You simply type the name into the search on the market. So you can see here the tier 8 Ledger of Truths is only 2,400 silver. And the tier 2 version, the Adventurer's Handbook, is 8 silver. Again, these things are insanely cheap. The reason they're so cheap is that when you use a generalist trophy journal to level a laborer, you get a ton of these for free. They just give you 1 to 2 each, and you'll get like 10 of them per laborer level up. Alright. Magical Tome, 15 silver. Ancient Scripture, 9 silver. Tier 5, Tome of Knowledge, 100 silver. Encyclopedia Power, 127 silver. Occult Octavo, 152 silver. These things are so cheap. They're basically free. So what do you do if you're looking for a trophy and it's not on the market? So I have a tier 8 wood trophy selected. It's not on the marketplace. No offers found. If you go down here to the Create Buy Order tab, you can see the name, which would be Whitewood Bonsai. And if you click Buy Order, you can set it to 4 weeks and kind of see how much they've been selling for. So one of them sold in Bridgewatch for 4 million. And 1.75 million is the standard rate, it looks like, in the past 4 weeks. Whereas one sold, let's see, 2 sold about 18 something days ago. So you can see not a lot of people buy and sell these. So if you're trying to outfit, you know, your tier 8 guild hall, you might have to go to different towns to look for availability. And you might have to pay, you know, a crazy amount for the higher tier stuff. Or go out to a tier 8, you know, zone and chop tier 8 wood until you fill those damn journals up. And just remember, you're going to need 5 of those for your guild halls. Or 4 if you're doing the 12 laborer method. It's up to you. Anyway, that's the video. That's all I've got. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments. I read every single comment. If you're still confused, ask me questions in this specific video's comment section. Don't go to some random, like, New World video and ask an Albion question. I won't answer it there. Ask it right here in this comment section. And finally, hit the like button, because a lot of the rich folks that play this game, a lot of the really fat cats, the big 1%ers, do not like this information coming out to the public. Why do you think no other YouTubers make video guides for these specific subjects? Because they don't want you to get more money. They want you to be poor, broke, homeless, and dead in the black zone. I am being serious. I am not memeing here. That is exactly what they want. They take great pleasure in your suffering, and I am here to help you not suffer the ways that, you know, we all did as newbies. So finally, with that said, there's one last thing I want you to do. You don't have to hit the subscribe button, but you do need to click the video on the right side of the screen. Click that video right now, or, you know what'll happen? You'll be really tired and you'll go to bed early. Yeah, that's right.